Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Now 24 Nightly News. I'm your host, Mariam Zian, and here are your top stories. Coming up in our program, the Zionist occupation forces stormed the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis and turned it into military barracks. Next, in response to possible Israeli military actions in Rafah, Canada, Australia and New Zealand jointly called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. And the Algerian head of diplomacy praised the African Union's victory in becoming a G20 member in Addis Ababa, emphasizing its importance in correcting historical injustices and Africa's marginalization in international organizations. Hello and welcome again to our program. Palestinian Ministry of Health announced on Thursday that the occupation army has committed 9 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, claiming the lives of 87 martyrs and injuring 104 during the past 24 hours. The ministry said in a press statement that a number of victims are still under the rubble and on the roads. It added that the occupation forces have been blocking the movement of ambulance and civil defense crews, preventing them from reaching the victims. Spokesman for the Ministry of Health in Gaza, Dr. Ashraf Al-Qidra, said that the occupation stormed the Nasser hospital and turned it into military barracks after demolishing the southern wall. Military vehicles and tanks of the Zionist occupation stormed the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip, and surrounded all the buildings. Dr. Al-Qidra added that the oxygen tube was damaged and oxygen leaked, which led to a decrease in oxygen pressure in the hospital, especially in the intensive care unit. As we followed in our top stories, Canada, Australia and New Zealand jointly called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, expressing deep concern over potential Israeli military operations in Rafah. In a statement by their prime ministers, the countries warned of disastrous consequences and emphasized the Zionist entity's obligation to protect civilians, provide essential services and deliver urgent humanitarian aid as per the recent International Court of Justice ruling in South Africa genocide case. And for more, let's follow this report by Nabil Khazini.
The once home and refuge for patients to get medical help has turned into a battlefield. This is Al Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Smoke filling corridors, chaos and panic are everywhere.
We are attacked by the hospital.
Palestinian Health Ministry said occupation army stormed the Al Nasser Hospital and turned it into a military barracks.
The moments of the past night were very difficult. The airstrikes were so intense, and they reached one of the patients' rooms. 2 patients were martyred. One of them is unidentified. The rocket fire was directed at him. He was split in half. His lower part was at the department, and the other part was outside the building. Another case was identified. There were injuries as well. There were injured people, and the number of those injured increased.
Some patients could manage to escape the horror. Sadly, others were killed. But the question now is, where will these people living in Gaza get medical treatment? The hospital is one of the last functioning medical facilities in the Gaza Strip. 2/3 of the hospitals have been destroyed.
إذا قال لك خلاص ارجعوا وبكرة بنكمل.
They tell you we are done for today and we continue tomorrow. Where's the safe passage that you told us you want to get the displaced out from? You told me that you provided me with a safe passage. But no, you humiliated and insulted us and sent us back.
Earlier, civilians were forced to leave the hospital. But where to? For them, there is not a single safe place to escape to in Gaza today.
The United Nations Aid Chief Martin Griffiths warned on the possibility of Palestinians in Rafah to flee to Egypt if Israel launches a military operation against the border town. More than 1 million Palestinians who fled bombardments in other parts of Gaza have been jammed into Rafah and live in substandard tent camps and temporary shelters. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini stated that the agency's operations in the Gaza Strip would be jeopardized if Israel proceeds with its planned attack on Rafah. Mr. Lazzarini highlighted that the entire logistics of the UN and the international aid community are centered in Rafah.
We have 500,000 children at the age of primary and secondary school, deeply traumatized. Our collective priority will have to bring them back to an educational environment. Because the more we wait to do this, the more we might sow the seeds for further resentment and future aid. And this is certainly not the recipe to promote better peace and security in the future in the region.
As the Zionist genocidal war keeps on ravaging through the Gaza Strip, over 170,000 children are being orphaned as they lose both or one of their parents. According to UNICEF estimates, in many cases they arrive to hospitals alone as there is no one left alive from their family members. These children suffer from post-traumatic stress symptoms due to shelling and explosions. Their fate remain unknown. Islam Sid has the story.
In Gaza, thousands and thousands of children are facing the harsh reality of being orphaned or separated from their parents, enduring profound psychological trauma. Children in the Strip are being killed by Zionist raids on a daily basis, and for those who survive, they arrive at Gaza hospitals, often alone, under a new category, wounded child, no surviving family.
The number of orphan children who have lost both or one of their parents has increased and is estimated at 17,000 according to UNICEF. These children live in a delicate psychological state as a result of their feelings of pain of loss and displacement. At their shelters, we provide them primary psychological care.
The Zaytuna family, after fleeing a bombing in northern Gaza, now resides in Rafah. The mother and 3 surviving children took shelter in a tent. The father and 2 others lost to the attack.
I lost my father and 2 of my brothers. We took refuge in Ashifa Hospital, then to the city of Khan Younis, and from there we were displaced to the city of Rafah.
These children grappling with severe mental health issues exhibit symptoms like shock, anxiety, loss of appetite, sleeplessness, and panic attacks triggered by explosions.
Suddenly they bombed us and there were a lot of shrapnel. My father was killed. Then we were displaced to another shelter in Gaza, where another bombing occurred. The army asked us to evacuate that place too. Then we came to Rafah. We have been here for more than 115 days. I hope that me, my mother, and my brothers will return home.
While relatives or neighbors usually step in to care for orphaned children, in many cases, there is no one left, leaving their fate uncertain. This heartbreaking situation highlights the urgent need for support and intervention.
Ireland announced a €20 million support package for the United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency and urged countries that suspended funding to resume and expand their support. Let's take a listen.
I was deeply concerned that a number of UNRWA's key donors suspended their funding based on allegations against a very small number of staff that have yet to be proven. Our partners in the European Union and elsewhere, including the United States, must urgently rescind this decision and resume funding. Ireland's support remains steadfast, and I'm happy today to announce funding of €20 million for UNRWA for its operations in 2024.
In the same context, Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki stressed on Thursday the need for collective international efforts to protect the Palestinian people, enforcing an immediate ceasefire and stopping the aggression against Gaza, as well as finding a just and lasting solution that enhances peace and stability in the region. This came during a press conference that brought together al-Maliki with Greek Foreign Minister Yorgos Gerapetrithis, where he called for collective action within the European Union, Arab countries and international community in order to prevent the invasion of the city of Rafah, warning that this invasion would lead to new massacres and thousands of martyrs and injured.
We are working hard for a humanitarian ceasefire. We are working hard in order to prevent an invasion by the Israeli army of the city of Rafah. We spoke at length about how to work at the bilateral and collective level within the European Union, Arab states, and the international community in order to prevent the invasion of the city of Rafah. Because the invasion of the city of Rafah will mean new massacres and thousands of deaths.
In a press conference, the permanent representative of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, said that presenting the Algerian draft resolution calling for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and accelerating voting on it by the Security Council will be a positive element in favor of the prisoners and detainees exchange deal currently underway. In a press conference held in New York, Mansour stressed the need to increase pressure on the Israeli side to speed up the completion of this deal.
Presenting the draft resolution and voting on it will help the commissioners in Cairo, among the working parties, to complete the prisoners and detainees exchange deal. We believe that this is a leverage for those who want to use it as a means of pressure on the Israeli side to speed up the completion of this deal. I said that there is a consensus from the E10, and it's true. We held a meeting with them, the overwhelming majority of the members of the Arab group, and the atmosphere was positive and supportive, and they are ready to vote in favor of this resolution. The technical issue in submitting it in blue color and setting the date to vote on it is left to our brothers in Algeria, the Arab representatives who have the sovereign right to define these matters and communicate with the Algerian leadership.
الذين عندهم الحق السيادي في تحديد هذه الأمور في التواصل مع القيادة الجزائرية.
On Thursday, Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Ahmed Attaf received a phone call from his Iranian counterpart Hussein Amir Abdullahian, according to a statement by the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The discussions between the two ministers address the ongoing developments in the genocidal war against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the diplomatic efforts undertaken by Algeria in support of the Palestinian cause within the United Nations Security Council. Furthermore, the two sides discussed ways and means to strengthen bilateral relations in preparation for upcoming high-level events between the two countries. The Speaker of the Algerian National People's Assembly, the acting Speaker of the Union of Councils of Member States of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, Brahim Boughali, affirmed that the aggression and genocide perpetrated in the Gaza Strip against the Palestinian people is a shame on humanity. In his speech during the opening of the 50th meeting of the Executive Committee of the parliamentary body held in the city of Constantine, East Algeria, Mr. Boughali stressed the need for international bodies and institutions to assume their responsibilities towards the Palestinians in Gaza. He praised in this context South Africa's initiative before the International Court of Justice to prosecute the Zionist entity for its crimes and Algeria's efforts within the United Nations Security Council to translate those decisions into practical steps.
Things are becoming worse and more complicated with the shameful incapacity of international institutions to assume their legal and moral responsibilities towards the Palestinian people to end this war and allow the access of urgent humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. We hail the decision of the International Court of Justice issued following the legal complaint lodged by the State of South Africa against the Zionist entity for genocide crime, and which we consider an important gain for the Palestinian cause and for all just causes. I send a message of consideration to the State of South Africa, government and people for this brave and noble position that will be written in golden letters, as it is the first time that the Zionist occupier is held accountable and prosecuted before international justice for its crimes.
Lebanese local media sources said the civilian death toll from 2 occupation airstrikes in the city of Nabateeya has risen to 10. This was the second major attack on Wednesday after a previous airstrike hit the town of Al-Sawana, killing a mother and 2 children. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Thursday the Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Grand National Assembly of the Republic of Turkey, Fuat Oktay. The meeting was held in the presence of the Director of the Cabinet of the Presidency of the Republic, Mr. Boualam Boualam, and the Chairman of the Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and Community Committee of the National People's Assembly, Mr. Rabah Boutelja. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, chaired a meeting on the preparations for the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, scheduled for the 29th February to March the 2nd in Algiers. In a time of geopolitical instability impacting the energy market, Algeria stands out as a steadfast and secure energy partner sought by countries facing energy consumption challenges. The country remains steadfast in its commitment in the fields of politics and energy. Hussein Berkan.
Against the backdrop of global energy market volatility due to ongoing wars, Algeria emerges as a unique and dependable energy partner. European, African, and various other partners have consistently praised Algeria's reliability during frequent visits in recent years.
Algeria has provided a confidence boost to global gas and oil buyers. It stands out as a reliable country, offering consumers a sense of security in managing their affairs related to consumption and payment. Algeria's economic policies prioritize stability and compromise.
In the current tense geopolitical climate, energy transactions are increasingly influenced by narrow calculations, with energy wielded as a pressure tool in resolving international crises. In this scenario, global energy market urgently requires suppliers dedicated to contractual commitments, steering clear of tension-driven logics.
Observers note the clear distinction Algerians make between energy policies and other regional or local considerations. Algeria adhere to red lines and ensure the stability of consumer and buyer needs without compromise.
While many countries prioritize their interests and entrench their political positions, Algeria remains committed to its contracts with energy importers, extending this dedication from its energy commitment to its unwavering political stance.
Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf highly praised the African Union's successful bid to become a G20 member during the ongoing meeting of the Executive Council of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, regarding the Union's G20 participation procedures. In a speech, Algeria's top diplomat stressed that this membership is regarded as a valuable asset and advocated for capitalizing on his victory to carry on the group's march towards correcting historical injustices and Africa's long-standing marginalization in international organizations.
يثني هذا الوفد على جهود كل من ساهم.
This delegation commends the efforts of everyone who contributed, whether closely or remotely, to securing the membership of the African Union in the G20, which we consider an achievement that should be valued, and a development upon which we should build to carry on our collective journey towards addressing the historical injustice and the long marginalization against our continent in various global governance institutions in the political, security, economic, and social fields. From this perspective, this delegation calls for ensuring the effective participation of the African Union in this bloc and working within its framework to mobilize the necessary international support to achieve the goals and aspirations enshrined in our 2063 development agenda.
The Algerian top diplomat also emphasized his endorsement of the strategy put forth at the Executive Council's discretion over the Operation Way as part of the partnership between the G20 and the African Union. Here's Ahmed Attaf.
This delegation supports the approach proposed at the discretion of the Executive Council, providing for the representation by acting President of the Union, supported by the President of the Commission of our organization in the G20 meetings at the summit level. Second, generalizing the same principle to ministerial meetings, where a minister from the presidency state, supported by the competent commissioner, represents our organization. This work style imposes itself, in our view, as the most effective, efficient, and capable of conveying the voice of our continent in total safety, honesty, and loyalty.
In his speech regarding the item related to the upcoming elections for senior officials in the African Union Commission, Mr. Ahmed Attaf said that the election of the chairman and vice chairman of the Commission is of a paramount importance, stressing the need to see that the candidates have a vision that will lift the African continent to higher levels.
We are strongly convinced that such a matter of a paramount importance should not be subjected to mere systematic process, lacking any assessment of capacities and verifying the qualification, and to make sure that the candidates have visions, ambitions, and projects through which they will lift our continent to higher levels.
Mr. Attaf also stressed that the African continent needs the most qualified people to lead the African Union Commission. Let's take a listen.
The delegation affirms our continent's need to enshrine a selective and competitive process at a large scale that will culminate in the emergence of the best African skills and the most capable of leading the African Union Commission in line with our collective commitment to enhancing the governance of our organization and improving its performance and endowing it with those who deserve to serve it and serve our ambitions and aspirations in the best possible way. Our continent doesn't deserve less than this commitment, nor a weaker process to select the best of the best.
وأضعف من هكذا مسار لاختيار الأفضل من الأفضل.
Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Ben Jama, emphasized during his address to a Security Council session on combating terrorism that the fight against this scourge requires more than military force alone. Let's have a listen.
We can't fight terrorism with military force or police force alone. We need to prioritize peace building, diplomacy, development, education, communication, and social medias to resolve the conflicts that gives this group a foothold.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program has come to an end. If you missed any part of it, you can check it on our social media platform. Thank you for tuning in and have a good night.